Hello and welcome to episode 15 of the Alfa Romeo Driver Podcast, brought to you by the Alfa Romeo Owners Club. This afternoon we're having one of our regular roundtable discussions, and with me I have Club Chairman Mr. Detailing, John Griffiths, Club Manager and White Van Man, Nick Wright, and Board Member and Mito Registrar David Two Doors Faithful. And joining us this week is our very special guest, Alfa Romeo Country Manager Damien Dally. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Damien, when we do these conversations, we tend to start with a little bit of background. Obviously, you're an FCA employee and work for the Alfa Romeo brand, but there's a passion there as well. Which came first? Did you apply for the job because you had a passion for Alfa, or did the job give you the passion?
I think I came to Alfa Romeo relatively late in life. So my background was I worked for another car company before I joined here. And I distinctly remember I was an area manager for this car company. It was Audi, actually. And I was at a dealership, I know. It was a dealership which also had Alfa Romeo and Fiat. And they kind of had shared garages and stuff. It was in Wolverhampton, which back in probably 98, I think it was. Yeah, it would have been 98. At the time, I was driving a pretty nice, fully equipped big Audi. Anyway, long story short, I was in a meeting with this dealer. It's quite a difficult meeting. He received a phone call and he said, basically, can we close the meeting for 5 minutes? I need to nip out. And to be honest, I thought there was something wrong. And I was like, is everything okay? Everything's okay. And he went, can I be honest with you? I went, yeah. He said, the 156 has just arrived and everybody's coming out to have a look at it. And I was like, what? So anyway, what happened was we all kind of congregated and watched this 156 come off the trailer. So he had some other garages as well, some other brands. So there's Audi, I think there's Volkswagen, there's Fiat, there was Alfa, obviously, and a couple of others. And it was like this, 20, 30 odd people watching this car come off the trailer. And the minute I saw this car, I was like, wow, this is super cool, super cool. And then that was the day I kind of fell in love with Alfa, and I started researching. The more I read about, the more I saw. I mean, bear in mind, it's 98. So, okay, there was an internet, but it wasn't the internet that is today. And I really started to fall in love with the brand. And, I was doing quite well at Audi, but I really started to follow Alfa. I was following the touring cars, which was a bit awkward at the time because Audi were also in the touring cars. And how I came, so in answer to your question, my love for the brand definitely came before the job. And actually, the story is how I got the job is a friend of mine was working for an agency for Alfa Romeo and suggested that I get in touch with the managing director of Alfa Romeo at the time. And this was in 2002. And they were separating then really Alfa Romeo from Fiat. There were separate field teams and everything. So 156 had been out for a while. 147 had been out for a while. 2001 was the big year. Alfa Romeo sold 17,000 cars. So I called the managing director, whose name was Glyn Owen at the time, and basically said, hey, can we get together for a coffee? So I came to see him. I remember distinctly the day, and I'm not a big football fan, but it was a big World Cup match. So at the time I was living in Chepstow. I drove all the way to Slough. I completely misjudged the journey because England were playing at the time, so no one was on the M4. I remember distinctly sitting in McDonald's for about an hour and a half with time to kill, because obviously you never want to be late for your interview. Anyway, Glyn was actually late. I met him. We instantly hit it off. And he basically said to me, if I offer you the job, will you take it? And I'm like, well, yeah. And I drove back to South Wales with my new job. And, coming from a German brand where there's lots of bureaucracy and things take a long time, I was quite shocked, really. So got back Friday night and basically resigned on Monday. They made me work 6 weeks notice. I remember the time. And then I started with Alfa Romeo and it was that was the story. So I completely bought into the brand. I completely bought into the guy. And I completely bought into everything that the brand was trying to do,
And has that level of bureaucracy been sustained ever since?
I'd be careful. I think working for an Italian company and also working for, remember, we're also an Italian-American company now, and obviously we've evolved. I think it's a very dynamic environment. I think myself personally, I enjoy that. It's constantly evolving, fast pace, and there are bureaucracies in any large company, but for sure here, the thing that I really like about the company is the pace, the enthusiasm, the passion. And we've got some amazing people. We've got some amazing designers, and we've got, very, very committed people who are completely bought into the brands. And there is a great team morale and all that sort of stuff. So, that's kind of what's kept me here, really. And that was obviously 18 years ago. So,
and along that journey, obviously you've had access to cars as part of the job, but you own at least one, don't you?
Yeah, so I do own an Alfa Romeo. I would like to own more. The car that I own is a 916 Spider in red. It's the 2-litre. Sadly, it's not the V6. Probably the only thing that could be better about it. It's, for those of you who know the 916, in my personal opinion, it's the best of the range, because when the car was first launched in 96, they revised the interior in about 98 and 99. So it's got this kind of silver interior and the revised interior. But it's before the facelift, which I remember actually working for the company, because the facelift was about 2002, 2003. At the time, the facelift looked amazing, but I think the original front grille has probably stood the test of time more so. So absolutely love the car. Had it re-leathered, resprayed, pretty much rebuilt. It is, as I mentioned, the 2-litre version. I wish it was the V6 in many ways, but absolutely love it. But I would like to collect more, to be honest with you. It's not the last. And my daughter, who's 13, has already got her eye on it. So it will stay with me forever. I mean, whether or not I stay with Alfa Romeo forever, I will be an Alfa Romeo owner forever, for sure.
So Nick bought yours is a facelift one, isn't it, Nick?
Mine's a phase 3 I bought early this year.
I now take everything back. I just said that.
It's too late. I've written it down there, Damien. Sorry.
No, he's written it down. That's going in the magazine.
Can we edit that now?
Yeah.
Mine's a 2-litre as well. I think it's brilliant. It's well balanced. That's
well balanced.
Plenty of what I want. So I've still got my
Genuinely,
V6 159 if I want some more grunt. So.
Do you know what? I think the 916 shape is probably one of the most interesting cars out there, and for sure it's going to be a future classic. I mean, it's just getting more and more interesting. The concealed doors, the lights at the front,
yeah,
the line that goes through the car, the kind of raised boot lids. I mean, I think it's it's awesome.
The 916s have become kind of the new Bertone Coupe and 105 Spider among our members. They're incredibly popular. If you come to a National Alpha Day, we've got 70, 80 of each there. They're fantastic. They're much loved.
And even though the noise of the V6 is nice, the twin spark to drive those 916s are fabulous.
Yeah.
They're almost nicer to drive than the V6, to be honest, but you just don't have the noise.
I think the twin spark engine is perfectly matched to that gearbox, which is why it works so well, to be honest. I mean, there's a bit of flex on the front, and I haven't put the reinforced struts, which in fairness, if you've got the V6, I think it's worth having. But no, I mean, you're right. I mean, that twin spark is a beautiful, beautiful sounding engine. But I constantly look on Auto Trader, to see what else is out there. I also fancy a GTV. I do want a Brera, but that comes with some. I'm very specific about what I want on the Brera, which I think I'm never going to find it. And if I do find it, I'm going to be scared, because I don't actually know what I'd do if I actually found the one that I actually wanted. And one day I would like to own a 4C, because I just think that car is just, amazing.
I have to confess, the 916 Spider is known in our house as the wrong Spider, but not for any of the reasons you might think. So I've had, I'm on my second one now, but I've had 939 Spiders since 2012.
Yeah.
And every time we go to an Alpha event, my wife comes back all smiling because she's found a car or a T-shirt or something, and she holds it up and she looks at me and she says, "It's the wrong Spider, isn't it?" I said, "Yeah, it is. Very nice. I'll put it with my 916 Spider model collection, but it is the wrong Spider."
939 is nice as well, but I mean, to be honest with you, I just love the Brera, to be fair. And also coming back to the question about Alfa appearing on my radar, when they originally, it was the summer just before I joined. So it was almost, hang on, sorry, it wasn't the summer. It was the March, the motor show of the March, was it 2001 or 2000? Anyway, it was around about the time when I was looking to make the move to Alfa that they unveiled the Giugiaro concept for Brera, which was, I mean, breathtaking, with the gull-wing doors. And I mean, it was just like, wow, it's just bull. So that probably contributed a little bit as well.
Yeah, I actually went to buy a Brera and came away with the Spider, but that's another story.
It's a close thing, I think, to be honest. I mean,
So you've been with the company 18 years. You've had a couple of years away from Alfa, and obviously there's a lot that's changed in the 18 years. How much has changed in the couple of years that you've been away from the brand?
Well, you know what? I mean, just to sort of fill in the last 2 or 3 years. So I was head of brand for Alfa Romeo Jeep, and I left about 3 years ago. I spent the first 6 months in Spain, which was pretty nice because the summer was just starting. It's a bit of a change in pace, but I soon started to like it, and the sun was coming out. It's pretty amazing. Then I spent the next 6 months driving around all the cold countries just as the winter came. So Poland, I remember in the snow. I was about to go to Russia, and then the whole Salisbury thing happened, so I didn't go. And then I moved to Turin, which has been kind of knocking for quite a long time, because obviously I've been with the company for 16 odd years at that point, for the Jeep brand, which is, another brand which is pretty amazing. I mean, it hurt to let go of Alfa, to be honest. I mean, it really did. But I was in an international role looking after EMEA from a sales perspective for Jeep. And that was a pretty great time, albeit that I was traveling to Turin, so I left my family here. So I was getting up at 2:30 every Monday morning, catching a flight and arriving in Turin. So if I'm honest, I just came to the end of that really, where I was sort of sick to death of airports. And so this was around about the 10th of February this year. So if you think about what was going on in the world around about then, I mean, COVID bit earlier, obviously, in Italy. I mean, it was starting to be talked about a lot in Italy. And I pretty much finished the job, some would say probably just in time. Came back here, instantly was kind of getting out and about and seeing dealers, retailers, re-engaging with a new team. And 4 weeks later, kind of we locked down. So, and this crazy situation that we've all never been in our lives before. And sort of spending certainly April and May confined to my home office, albeit I'm very lucky because I've got a home office. Some people haven't. So I was really really getting back to meeting people and getting the face-to-face. I think Alfa Romeo is a brand which fundamentally needs to be driven, and it needs to be driven by passionate people. And, passion needs to be harnessed, and passion can be positive, and if not harnessed, not so much. And what I'm pleased about is that basically we've got some dealers who are diehard Alfa Romeo dealers, and it was good to get back to them. And also the key thing I really want to try and do is to reinvigorate those, and because quite literally with the Giulia and the Stelvio, I mean, it would be an interesting debate among the five of us really, but probably for sure we've got the two best Alfa Romeos that we've probably had for 20 years. We could debate the 156 and the 147 back in the day, and I think that would be an interesting debate. But I think the Stelvio and the Giulia are, absolutely up there. They've been recognised by the press. These are 4-star, 5-star cars, and I think we really need to maximise this opportunity and as I say, really harness that passion and that enthusiasm. Our drivers want it. I think our dealers want it, and that's kind of what I was excited about getting back to, really, and really working with the retailers hard to push these two incredible models which we've got, which I think are full of potential, really.
I remember seeing you at the Goodwood Festival of Speed, Damien, when the first Giulias were launched there.
Yeah.
Seeing that, I thought I'm going to have one of these. Then I went to an Alfa launch at Millbrook.
Yeah.
The first Giulia I drove was a 150 horsepower diesel, and it sold it to me. Got in the quadrifoglio that blew me to bits. So I bought a 2017 Speciale diesel, and I've just picked up my second.
Very nice spec, yeah.
I've just picked up my second Giulia today.
Oh, wow.
A Veloce. So with all the gizmos, and it's just mind-bogglingly fabulous. And the difference in the new model is amazing. I just love it.
So you've got a model year 20?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when we launched the Giulia, I mean, and I think when you look at cars and when you really appreciate cars, and not everyone really appreciates cars, let's be honest about it. So to some people, it's just a thing that, it's not like us, we really appreciate cars. When you look at the Giulia, and I've done it, and you walk around it, often when you look at a car, you can think, well, they could have done a little bit better here, or why is that like that? And often it's related to probably things like safety and all these kind of things. The Giulia, every angle is absolutely perfect on that car. The shape of it is just beautiful. I mean, it's the kind of car which, if it was in almost like a huge, like Tony Stark Iron Man cave, it would look cool.
Yeah.
It's just beautiful. But the model year 20, I think, and clearly when we launched the Giulia, as you remember, it was massively anticipated, and immediately the reviews were fantastic. And it was pretty much instantly successful. And the amazing thing about Alfa Romeo, because if you look at the segment it competes in, the D segment, we kind of defy that, because manufacturers think about D segment cars and the segment it appeals in. But that car, pulls people from all over the place, because it is so stunning. It looks like a coupe without even trying to conceal the real doors. It's just absolutely perfect. Yeah. But I think the point about the model year 20, and it's nice feedback that you said, is that basically that's just taken it to a whole new level. So the whole infotainment, they're really subtle differences, but the differences are really, for those of us who appreciate those things, the differences are massive. They're subtle to some people, and in a way they are subtle, because we didn't need to change much.
No.
But the things that we could improve, we've really improved. And coming back to kind of when I got back, is the timing of the global pandemic has probably not been great, because we were just starting to get the cars when we locked down. So it wasn't kind of the launch which we probably all would have enjoyed, really. I mean, literally the cars were arriving just as the dealers were closing on following Boris Johnson's obviously advice. So I think we've still got all that to come. And the Quadrifoglio, I mean, we have massive potential with that. That car is absolutely phenomenal. I mean, you have to be careful with it. You need to have 3 straight a week before you drive it and be alert. I mean, because it will test you, and that's the beauty of it. That's why. And I think we've got a big potential with that car. Some dealers are really tuned to the opportunity. I think part of my role is to get more people turned on to that opportunity, and it comes back to delivering the Alfa Romeo message with a passion and enthusiasm which differentiates us from some of our competitors, and I think it's just the key word is opportunity, really.
I must say, also at the dealer, he's recently sold, my local dealer, he's recently sold 4 Quadrifoglios, and in each case he's taken in a Porsche, which is amazing. So outside there was a Macan which is sold next to the new Stelvio Veloce, and wow, same size, but actually the Veloce looked stunning next to it. It really did. And the Macan's a cracking car. But
we just talked a lot about the Quadrifoglio, but the 280 horsepower petrol engine is phenomenal, amazing. The sound of it, the torque, the driving experiences. I mean, I'm not saying it's better than the Quadrifoglio, because obviously the Quadrifoglio is different, but I think that's probably one of the best Alfa Romeo engines for a long time, to be honest. It's a beautiful engine.
Do you think to an extent the Veloce suffers a bit from being in the shadow of the Quadrifoglio? Because it's such a gap on paper, and yet, as you say, it's a fabulous car.
I think that the Quadrifoglio is just at such a level. I think I've got to be careful what I say. I mean, it's kind of super extreme. I could get into trouble quite a lot in the Quadrifoglio, whereas in terms of speeding tickets and probably God knows what else. So whereas I think the Veloce, I don't want to say I could live with it all the time, because that almost like makes it mundane, and it's not. It's just that it can do everything I want it to do and everything I need it to do, to be honest with you. And by the way, more. So in a sense, I'm sort of, it's just it's my of the two, it's probably my favourite, because I just know that ultimately the Quadrifoglio is such an animal, over 500 horsepower, but I think there's opportunity in both cars, to be honest.
And we recently had the the formal launch of the GTA and GTA M.
Yep.
Obviously, that's a limited run, very expensive. Is the role of that car to increase sales of the Quadrifoglio?
I think the role of that car is, first of all, it's a nameplate which is synonymous with the brand, and I think Alfa Romeo needs kind of almost demands the amazing heritage which we've got. And GTA, think about it, I'm just trying to think, the last time was obviously the 156, 147 era, which, and I think it's a celebration of Alfa Romeo. I think it was described as the gift that Alfa Romeo gave to the Alfisti for the 110th anniversary, which I think is a really good way of putting it. And I think that Alfa Romeo, if you think about some of the cars which we've made, like 8C, which I was massively, I loved 8C, and I was fortunate because I was the 8C ambassador. I think every now and again Alfa Romeo needs to produce these super dream cars, and it's a brand that can. And I think it benefits the overall brand. I think it embraces the Alfa Romeo community. But also, to take your point in terms of the Quadrifoglio, I think the Quadrifoglio story is an amazing one. And in the last couple of years, it's been when I've been away, really. Obviously, we've had the racing edition, the Nürburgring special edition. So I think there will be more of these type of cars. And Alfa Romeo is one of those brands. Not every brand can do that kind of thing. You know, we did it with 8C with 500 cars. Obviously, we'll do it again with GTA, and I think we'll do it again in years to come. So, but I think it was Arnaud Leclerc, who's now the head of EMEA, who said it is the gift from Alfa Romeo for the Alfisti for the 110th. And to be honest, let's be honest, guys, we've probably been robbed a little bit of our 110th this year because of what's happened. So, I mean, I haven't driven it yet because not many people have. I'm looking forward to it.
You've got probably the two best cars you've ever had at the same time. And the sales numbers are not what was expected. Obviously, if you knew exactly what the problem was with the sales numbers, it'd be fixed. But what do you think is the role of the dealers in addressing that, and what else can be done to put Giulias and Stelvios in the hands of the number of people that deserve to have them?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good question. I think first of all, if you think about it for a second and you look at Alfa Romeo in the last 10 years, and I was just chatting to David here, who's on his third Mito. I mean, most of our sales up until the Giulia introduction were Mitos and Giuliettas, and a small amount of 4Cs. So we were playing in a different kind of area of the market, really. And then, of course, we were launching Giulia and things like Quadrifoglio, which were a massive jump from what we were historically selling. So I think this comes with a challenge in itself, if I'm honest. And I always want to be fair to the retailers because that's not going to be easy for any brand. And I think also when you look at the segments which we compete in with we call it the D segment and the I2 segment, it's the SMMT classification. Very kind of internalized numbers, really. Don't really mean anything to customers. It's just the size and type of car. Those are very aggressive segments. The D segment, particularly the Giulia plays in, is dominated by fleet and also is moving more to hybrid and bordering on electric technologies, which at the moment we don't have in that car. And the fleet point is a valid one because the fleet industry in the UK, and I've seen this very clearly now. I always knew it was different to the rest of Europe, but I've really seen it very much so now. I mean, fleet is so significant here, and Alfa Romeo has historically, and a key word historically, not necessarily had the emissions and things like that and the benefit in kind to appeal to fleets so much. So in fairness to the retailers, it's not easy. But what we need to do is obviously tell the Alfa Romeo story, and it is a story, and it's a story which needs to be told to a wider audience. We can't just talk to the people which we've talked to historically. It's important that we do embrace the historic owners, and a big objective of mine is to make sure that we don't lose those Mito and Giulietta customers. We don't want to lose them from the brand. We want to keep them close because obviously there'll be things coming in the future. But everything I've just said about the D segment and Giulia is similar on the I2, which is the Stelvio. So what we are very fortunate about is that, if your product isn't good, you've got a problem. But if your product is as good as our product, 90% of the job is done. It's just the other 10% is pretty tough. And that's the 10% that we've got to work on. And I think we talked about passion and enthusiasm earlier. Not everyone understands this brand. They just don't. what I do believe is that, it gets infectious. And I remember, and I actually have it in my office, actually, it's a picture of I think it's like a 1970s advertisement, which is kind of like it almost describes the Alfa. Probably not very good to mention this right now.
I know exactly where you're going with
it's
this.
kind of like it's a virus, you should probably scrub this out of the interview. And once you've got a bit of it, it sort of takes you over and you're done, really. It's kind of, and you're into it. And that's, but as bad as the analogy is in terms of the timing, it's a good analogy. And that's what we need to work on with our retailers. And not all of them are embracing the opportunity fully yet. And what I want to do is get that across to as many as possible, because what we do have is two genuinely, and it's not just me saying this, genuinely exceptional, and that's the key word, exceptional products. Which actually, if we are able to tell the Alfa Romeo story and get those people behind the steering wheel, I think we've got a pretty good chance of getting them to buy. That sounds very easy when I say it. It's the 10%, which is the tough 10%, really.
Interesting. We get members leaving who they say to me, "I'm sorry, Nick, I'm leaving the club. We've sold the Alfa," and I always just reply, "Well, you know where we are when you buy the next one." And the number of people who do come back later, we bought another one. And it's you can't get away from it. So.
Yeah, no. I mean, it's like I said, my bad analogy in terms of is a good analogy. It's once you understand it and once you buy into it and it becomes part of you, it stays. I think.
Can I lead on to new products? I was in my dealership this morning, as I mentioned, and there was the brand.
Which is your dealership? Are we not allowed to say? It's like the BBC. You're not allowed to give an advert.
Yeah, my local one was Research Garage in Nuneaton.
Okay, I know.
A good pal of mine, Saber Ali, is the sales.
Do you know what? I've heard great things about this guy.
He's such a super fellow, he really is.
And I haven't met him yet because he wasn't around a couple of years ago, and I need to get up there. Yeah.
He bought his own 4C, which is incredible, at the age of 25, I think.
Yeah.
But a lovely guy, and he's sold no end of cars. He's sold 10 to members in our region just since March. 10 cars, amazing, different ages. David bought one off him as well. So there you go. He's super guy.
I'm going to say I live on the south coast, and I travelled up to him to buy my Giulia.
Yeah. Again, he's known as an enthusiast, and it's a cracking setup there. So really pleased with them. In the showroom, there was the new plug-in hybrid Jeep Renegade, just landed, and I'm hearing figures of 240 horsepower with the electric boost in it. Are we going to see this coming sooner rather than later? There was always rumour that we might get an electrified Giulia. How close are we to that kind of thing appearing?
In the short, medium term, there will not be an electrified Giulia. I mean, is the straight answer.
Mm-hmm.
So in terms of the Renegade, I mean, obviously it's a big jump for the Jeep brand, and there will be big jumps for the Alfa brand going forward, embracing new technologies and new fuel types. But I mean, obviously, what we'd never do, and this is the important thing, is these two brands sit on their own. So we're never going to, one has its own brand identity. They have their own following of people in a similar way to us and you guys. It's so. I mean, I understand the question. I completely get the point. And there will be a moment when this obviously happens with Alfa Romeo. And I think the key thing with Alfa Romeo is the moment needs to be right. I mean, I remember many times we were asked, will we ever return to Formula One? And eventually, of course, we will, because it's part of our DNA and part of our roots. And for sure, one of our, Alfa Romeo's brand values is to be technologically advanced and all these kind of things. So these things are to come. But I mean, you've just picked up your model year 20 Giulia, which I think will keep you happy for a short time, but you might have to wait a little bit longer for a electrical or hybrid solution.
That's fine. I mean, we've got hopefully the Tonale around the corner.
Tonale is an amazing concept, obviously, and at some point in the future, obviously, we're going to see that car realised. I mean, at the moment things are, what with COVID and factories being closed, doesn't matter whether you're making clothes, iPhones, movies. Even James Bond was delayed, wasn't it? I mean, or indeed cars and Giulias. I mean, everything is kind of in a bit of a staggered and being postponed, let me say. So don't have a fixed date yet for Tonale. I mean, I've seen the concept, that the concept is phenomenal. I mean, it's a true Alfa in every sense. And as soon as we've got more information, and to show you guys. It would be a great opportunity to get the club to see it early doors, because I think it's important that, and it's the same. I mean, you mentioned the Jeep comparison. I mean, in the same way that when you look at the Renegade hybrid, Jeep have a similar following, and these guys are skeptical because they want to make sure it's a Jeep. Jeeps need to do certain things. I mean, and if you look at that Renegade 4xe, it's the most powerful Renegade ever. It's got the highest torque. It's got the highest towing capacity. And actually, the four-wheel drive system is the best that we've ever had. And it's important that when we embrace the next step for Alfa in those directions, that we equally stick with the Alfa Romeo brand value and fulfill all those in the same way that we've just done for Jeep. So let's wait and see. But certainly the concept which I've seen is stunning and amazing, and it gives us a hint as to what we can expect in the future.
What are your thoughts on the future of electric cars? Do you think we'll end up all being electric? Will we get the infrastructure in the end, or will we end up with fuel cells, or where would you see that going?
Well, you're asking the wrong guy, aren't you? Because basically,
That was just your opinion.
I like petrol engines.
I'll write that down.
I think going forward, diesel will become. I don't think the decline is going to be as huge as it was. If you think about it, if you plot it on a graph, it dipped with all the negativity and it's recovered somewhat. Petrol engines are becoming more and more efficient, and hybrid, etc., etc. I mean, long term, I don't know, but for me, it's important that, and it'll be interesting to see how, again, a similar point to how I mentioned earlier, is how we translate our brand values into these developments. And I'm still the guy who likes to change down in a gear and hear the engine rev. So, but I think Alfa, part of its brand value is technology and embracing all these kind of things. So I think it'll be a very interesting, dynamic time for the brand when the time is right. And I think it's an ever-evolving marketplace at the moment, and I still think I know for certain for the next couple of years, the developments which we've got are absolutely bang on what the market requires in the short term. I mean, let's see what the future holds, and I think it's an exciting time. And I've no doubt that Alfa Romeo will move with it. And I think there are very exciting times to come. And I think Denali is just a glimpse into the future. I think there's lots and lots of exciting stuff to come.
We are very fortunate that we have both the heritage and the story, but also, as you said, that in the Giulia and Stelvio, just the two most fabulous cars in the market kind of thing. So what can we do? What are the couple of things that we can do as an owners club to bring those two together, to bring the story to new people and to our brand? Do you have a view on that? Because obviously you have a view of how you want to get dealers to motivate people through their doors and to get an Alfa Romeo. But are there things that we could or should be doing to really make an impact in that area?
Yeah, so I think first of all, I mean, I met with Paul. Actually, it was a virtual meeting, like everything has been recently. But I think it's very fortunate that we've got Paul Jones, who's, first of all, he's a great guy. He's obviously working for FCA Bank, which is our banking partner, and obviously he's a key member of your team, as it were. He brings an interesting dynamic because obviously he's worked dealer side. He's an Alfa enthusiast, and also he's a senior member of the club. And I started I had a meeting with him recently, and I think what we're going to set up in the short term is some unique offers and discounts for members to really kind of embrace that relationship going forward. I think we need to understand. I mean, our setup is not that we can attend every single event, but I think we need to ensure that we have a presence and support the club. And bear in mind, I mean, I've been a member of the club as well myself. Alfa Romeo needs things like this. This is one of the things which differentiates it from another brand. And we have a name of our followers, unlike others, the Alfisti. And so I think anything which we can do, which brings us closer together, but for sure, anything that the club can do to get the brand in front of new people. And please don't misunderstand me, because this isn't at the deficit of existing people, because we want those existing people. And we'd have to work hard on those existing people for the reasons which I just mentioned, because a lot of them, we're selling now different cars to what we've done previously. And I think I've said it a couple of times now, it's about telling the Alfa Romeo story. Is once people are semi-engaged, and then we open a dialogue and they get to understand more, and then they get to drive the car, our chances of conversion are high.
Yeah, we've got, well, myself included, but there's 2 or 3 guys who are members dedicated to the brand, have been in the Mito for years, and we went and tried a Giulia, and now we own Giulias. So
Yeah.
I think that's a really important point. Get them in the car. So put aside the size difference in the segment and so on. We just need to get them in the cars.
I agree, and there are cars out there which are bigger and drive like big cars. The Giulia doesn't drive like a big car, so size is all in the mind, as it were. But it's kind of, it's and also some of the we did do a good job at attracting some younger people into Mito as well, and they're progressing in their careers and families and need a bigger car. But you look at the Giulia and you don't think that's a big car. It's still a very, as we mentioned earlier, coupe-esque, compact, executive car. Really, that's what we need to do. Is we need to get more and more people behind the wheel and tell them the Alfa Romeo story. And I think that's the key thing. The issue we have, and let's be honest, is compared to some of our competitors, which by the way is part of the reason why I like the brand so much, is you don't see so many of them on the road. It's you just don't, and we have to be careful about that, because that's a good and a bad thing. It's a good thing because they're not all over the place and ubiquitous, and but at the same time, it's easy not to be considered, if that makes sense. So
there's a Enzo Ferrari quote that I love. He was asked once about why they didn't sell more cars, which obviously they do now. And he said, we could sell all the cars that we make in California in a month, but then it'd just be like a Porsche. So there is an element of wanting to be special.
Yeah, I mean, let me be careful. I'd like to be slightly less special, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, I think we'd all like that.
but maintain all the positivity, and I think clearly we can do that, and keep everyone happy, really. So.
In all the years I've been involved with the brand, and I became passionate about Alfa in the early 80s, and my first car was an Alfa Sud Sprint back in 87. There's always been talk about the imminent death of Alfa Romeo and the brand not being long for this world. And I saw some of that start to re-emerge as the merger was announced. But it seems to me that if you look at the current PSA portfolio and the FCA portfolio, there's nothing else that fits in the same niche that Alfa does, which I assume we should take as being reassuring.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and I think I can't really comment on the merger for legal reasons, but I think, Alfa Romeo it's not just an automotive brand. It's a very, very powerful brand, and I think it's an important brand within our stable even before the merger. And I think we've established ourselves in certain segments. I think we've returned to motorsport in a big way with F1. So I think we're on a journey. I think with the 2 cars which we've got now, we've really often when you have a product cycle, it takes some time. If you think about the evolution, the 156 in the late 90s, which, let's be honest, was phenomenal, and probably we probably sold far too many cars far too quickly. And I don't think I'm telling you anything you don't already know. Infrastructurally, it was probably, we probably weren't ready. In fact, probably is not the word. It was just amazing. The growth was just amazing. If a child grew that fast in a year, you'd be taking them to the doctor. It was just unbelievable. And then the next cycle was 159, which was a pretty amazingly built car, but was probably bordering on a little bit heavy, was sturdy, and arguably perhaps we lost a little bit of our dynamism. And you look at Giulia now, and that is the car. That is every box ticked. Almost the perfect car. And I think we've learned a lot in the last years, and I think there's some exciting stuff to come. People joke about the future of Alfa Romeo, but personally, I think the Alfa Romeo is a brand which will grow, will progress. It's a massively important car brand, and I think with new technologies and things like that, people will want to differentiate themselves even more. And I think we have a following based on motorsport, on pure driving pleasure, and also style, which are probably 3 attributes which really, I don't want to say unique because someone could dispute it, but to me are unique, but give us a real flair which differentiate us from any other car brand, really. My favorite quote recently, which I think was from Top Gear when they did the GTA review, is if Ferrari made a 4-door saloon, this is what it would look like with the GTA. And you don't get Top Gear saying that about some of our competitors. You just don't, and that's what makes Alfa Romeo.
I'm not one of those people who's a Nürburgring fetishist, but the Nürburgring's been quite a big part of the brand over the last few years. The 4C was probably the first one where Alfa made a big fuss about the lap times for the 4C, and then it was obviously a big part of both Giulia and Stelvio, and the N-Ring editions. When are we going to see a GTAM at the Nürburgring? We need that crown back, 4-door saloon crown back from Jaguar.
Good question. I don't know. I'll have to come back to you. I don't know what, but I'm with you. It would be pretty. We sort of started a pattern, so it'd be interesting. I think the car will be started to be driven publicly towards the end of the year, so you may not have to wait too long. I don't even know, if I'm honest with you, the Nürburgring's even open at the moment, to be honest, but I mean, everything's kind of getting back to normal. Well, hopefully everything's going back to normal. So we'll see. But I'm with you. I think you're right. I think we've got a very strong pattern there, and I for sure would be very excited to see the lap time.
I think there was rumour that the circuit had changed slightly, but I've recently seen another brand saying that they've got new records in a different class. So hopefully it's open again.
Hope so.
We're all waiting with bated breath.
No, I was saying, this is the thing at the moment. We're all watching the radio and turning on the TV to see where we can travel, where we can't, and it's a bit of a strange time, isn't it?
It is, and we've got an event planned, which is our first event of the year, Southern Alpha Day, on the 19th. So we're frantically trying to find out whether we can still go ahead. As I'm sure many of our listeners will be aware, in the last couple of days we've received the very sad news that club stalwart John Dooley has passed away. John, as you know, was a massive part of the club for a huge period of time. We've run a series of articles on the history of Portello and Araci and Pomigliano over the last few issues of the magazine. And John's history of visiting Portello and Araci starts in the mid-60s, when he was just a very young man. Worked for Alfa GB when you were in Edgware Road, obviously campaigned with the Alfa Romeo dealer team in the British Touring Car Championship and two class wins. So it's a massive loss for us. Really just wondering whether that impact's been felt in Alfa UK, given the distance between the time that he worked there and now.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I was fully aware, because that's the sad reality, isn't it? Bad news can travel quite fast, really. And I'm in touch with quite a few people. I haven't been with the brand for a long time, and I found out just a few days ago through somebody who, again, was a mutual friend of the brand and friends of us, all of us, I guess. And obviously, it's a massive, massive loss. I do remember meeting him a couple of times, both at Goodwood, and also we used to meet with you guys. Kind of, I think it got to a bit of a tradition. I say tradition, we probably did it 3 or 4 times around about Christmas, where we got together for lunch, which would be a nice thing to do again. And I do remember him being at the one which it was a bit of a surprise, where we brought the 8C down. I think I told you that we were going to drive the latest Mito or something, and we turned up with the 8C, and it was nice because it was kind of so. Yeah, I mean, he was a massive, massive advocate of the brand, and I know he drove, I know he raced, and obviously the Edgware Road thing. I mean, due to the timing, most of the people, I don't think there's any crossover we have now. Versus those times now, but for sure, I got the message, and it was an extremely sad thing to hear. And I know you guys are going to, I know you'll celebrate his life in a way through the magazine and the site, and I think that's important. It's obviously a big loss to the brand and to you guys, and it's a sad situation. So I hope his family and everything, and I don't know what Alphas he left to the family, so it must be interesting to know. So, but I don't know whether the love of the brand will live on with his relatives. Hopefully,
We think so for sure, yeah. And he's his brother was in touch with Nick and myself last week about it, and it just came completely out of the blue. I was only speaking to John 2 weeks ago, and these things just hit you all of a sudden. I just wasn't expecting it at all. But tremendous guy.
His brother is a member of the club still. And, it lives on.
Yeah, James. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm sure that, we've recently set up the online archive, and John was a big part in doing that. The guy sat there with his scanner going through, was it nearly 50, over 50 years worth of magazines, getting them in the system. And, he'd got a huge archive himself. And, he's got extra stuff that I think James will bring into that. So that'll live on for certain. And I've got such tremendous memories of the guy. And one that always sticks with me is when he took me around on a club track day back in 2002, and he was in his Cinquecento, if you remember the 1100cc 54 horsepower. And my God, we lapped Mallory Park at one heck of a lick, to the point where we were closing on a 3-litre 75. It was absolutely awesome. But that's the man, really. He could have done those lap times all day, I'm sure. It was just awesome.
And not think there was anything remarkable about it. I mean,
that was the thing.
When you look at what he's done over the years, I mean, he's just so humble. There was a quote that was posted on the forum, which I just think sums it up. He was talking about the days of the Alfa Romeo dealer team, and just contrasting the fact that to do the BTCC now, you need £500,000 per car budget. And they were doing it from the back of a dealership and tin cupping around the dealers to get the budget together. And he described himself as an ordinary bloke with an ordinary job and an ordinary wage who happened to win the British Sports Car Saloon Car Championship. And one of our members said, I remember coming out and thinking, John, whatever you are, you're not ordinary.
Absolutely. I think his first Alfa Sud TI racer was his company car, which is incredible.
Well, I think the season that the last season it raced, it had done something like 90,000 miles or something, didn't it?
Yeah. It was one he told me, because he did a talk for our local area section, and apparently it was those really first ones had shorter tie rods at the back, and the handling was just unbelievable. So nothing could touch the thing. Just nothing could touch the thing. Forget the power to weight and all that. It was the handling of the machine. Plus, you've got to know how to drive it, and he was flipping good at that.
Again, the number of people who contacted me to say, "Oh, John helped me build my first ever race car." There must have been 10 people said that to me in the last week.
Yeah, I never saw him drive properly, but I know he was a pretty amazing driver.
I'll send you a picture. There's a picture of him at Alton Park, completely sideways in a GTV6. It was just awesome.
Well, the guy who told me about it is Chris who used to run Mithril, and he's a pretty good driver, and he was saying what an amazing driver he was. So
yeah, and he was even a bit of a mentor to you, wasn't he, David?
He was, yeah. I mean, I think he, as Guy said, he was just a humble, kind man. Do you know what I mean? So, I'm some trumped up, Mito-owning, Mito racing guy, and he was just hugely supportive, guided us through things. We were working on articles. I'm doing a Mito book that he helped me with. He had all the contacts in Italy, and he guided me through it. He was just Alfisti through and through, but just a really nice guy. It didn't matter who you were. You were just, you were his friend. Yeah. And you couldn't help but like him, because he was just a really nice guy, and his knowledge was unbelievable. Genuine. He knew things that in the next 25 years, I still won't learn as much as he had in his head. So remarkable man, yeah.
I think he's inspired us really to carry on with a lot of things. I think, Guy, we're discussing maybe having more kinder technical articles that he was such in favour of in the magazine going forward, things like that, perhaps.
I mean, and to be honest, it's important, and we are very fortunate as a brand to have had people like him and to have people like you. So, it's this is another thing. I mean, it's not a given, and I know a lot of you give a lot of your personal time, and you have that passion and the enthusiasm, and we're really grateful for that, and grateful to him and people like you. And for really embracing the brand and all the things which you put into it. And this is what makes Alfa Romeo unique. You know, this is it's more than just a car brand. It's gets into your skin. You know, and it becomes part of you, and it's become part of it's part of him, and it's part of you. And we're very fortunate, and you know, you're fortunate to have had him, and we're fortunate to have you. So, you know, thank you to everybody in the club for supporting the brand, and I personally look forward to working with you. Look forward to hopefully meeting you again, because to be honest, it's just meeting anyone at the moment is pretty amazing. But I'd love to meet you guys again, and let's get back to that kind of where we were before, where we were meeting a group of you a couple of times a year and showing you what we're doing and giving you insights in terms of the things we're working on, what we can tell you, what, you know, insights into the future, and also getting you to drive some of the latest cars that we've got on our, you know, just arrived, as it were, and show you things at the same time as our network. So, you know, I personally thank you for your time. Thank you for the opportunity today to speak with the members, and I'm you know, it's we look forward to meeting with you again and working with you very closely in the future.
I can't think of a better way to end the podcast. Thanks very much, Damien. Thanks, Damien. And thanks also to John, to Nick, and to David. That's all for this week. We'll be back in 2 weeks' time as usual. This time we'll be having another Meet the Board session, when we'll be joined by former Alfa racer Jonathan Griffin, who, along with Grant Richardson, is responsible for helping to develop the club sections. Episode 15 will be available from 1:30 on the 27th of September from all the usual sources: Podbean, iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, and all the other good places that podcasts are found. Until then, stay safe.